basically, I found proof that mermaids exist. I'm going to make a video on these symbols that I've been seeing, so we're just going to go over them, but they might resonate for you, and if they do, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, so let me know in the comments below if any of these, do resonate for you. I was watching a video by Mind Unveiled, and a lot of this stuff downloaded and came through. So I love his YouTube channel. You should definitely check him out. He does so much thorough research. I really trust his videos, and I love his perspectives on things. So I got the symbols MM on a truck the morning that I wrote all these down. M&M cartel, it said on the truck, M&M cartel, which reminded me of Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene is Dorothy. We got 𝐏𝐤𝐜𝐿. 𝐏𝐤𝐜𝐿 is Oz backwards.
Of Mary of Egypt. We see that this Mary of Egypt has the exact same story as the early legends of Mary of Magdalene from the medieval legends. But there's one interesting detail. At the end of Mary of Egypt, according to Mary of Egypt's story, 1 year before her death, she recounts her entire life to a saint or priest who she encountered in the desert. This priest is no other than Zosimos of Palestine. Now this isn't Zosimos of Panopolis, it's Zosimos of Palestine. Literally just one letter difference, but what are the chances of the similarity? Zosimos, who is a Palestinian saint and really only known for his encounter with Mary of Egypt, other than that, he really has no contributions. He's just referenced in the story. Even on the wiki page for Zosimos of Palestine, it says, quote, "The story shares many similarities with the one recorded in the Western Church as a story of Mary Magdalene, with Zosimos renamed as Maximin as recounted in the Golden Legend and elsewhere." The fresco illustrated by Giotto in his workshop in Assisi shows this version. End quote. So even scholars see the connection, but they refuse to investigate it further. These are all the same figure. Mary Magdalene, Mary the Virgin, Mary the Jewess, and Mary of Egypt is Mary Magdalene, or Mary the Alchemist. This is also interesting when you consider the Amazon women and how they are claimed to being population receders. That they were a race of androgynous beings that were feminine in nature, and they were superior and advanced as they had balanced both aspects of mind and brain. These goddesses, or queen bees, would then generate entire civilizations through repopulation. So if Mary of Egypt left for Alexandria, then we have our direct connection to Mary of Magdalene being Mary the Jewess, as Alexandria is where Gnosticism infused with Greek and Roman mysteries, developing into the beginning of alchemy. So we covered the three Marys, now we can connect that to the three wise men.
And Mary Magdalene, there's two Marys that talk to Zosimos and Zosimos, and yeah, so they're like connecting a lot with Mary and Zoe is Oz backwards, okay? Mary Magdalene to Mother Mary the Virgin and three Mary of Egypt are said to be the same people, also Mary the Jewess, according to his video. And it's so weird because I saw this truck like either before or watching the video, which is why I had written it down. She has the power of 3 and then the power of 4 because she's these three, and then they discover that this one could be tied to her as well. All the same figure, Mary Magdalene or Mary the Alchemist. So all four, and this is what Mind Unveiled researched and discovered. We got the red egg equals the Philosopher's Stone. The colors in Van Eyck's painting are green and blue, and she has red shoes, Toto in the center. I made a video about this recently where I inserted that part of his video talking about that part because I discovered it from that painting.
The colors of the outfit in Van Eyck's work on this lady are only green and blue, but if you look over here, there are red shoes in the center. If these are her shoes, then this would be the missing link. And she's also pregnant. Perhaps we're seeing a different symbolic version of the same phenomena, as this man in the black hat could be Gabriel. He's by the window of light. He has taken his shoes off, and he has a black hat signifying that this is a secret wedding.
Also, in a Mind Unveiled video, he's talking about how the top hats used to be made with mercury. Like, that's how they set them to stand like so straight and firm. And so, yeah, Mad Hatter, top hats, red mercury, again, and it was called blue mass, the poison or the disease that was caused from the top hats.
This is interesting. The dog in the center is important, but the symbolism involves darkness. For now, it suffices to say that this is the Philosopher's Stone, the homunculus. Is that reaching? Well, let's take a look at the mirror where we can find out the answer. The mirror is filled with Christian motifs. It's the story of Christ in a cycle, with the top being his crucifixion. But there's one very strange detail. Look in the mirror. This can't be an error. He even has the 3 oranges.
And also with apples being part of the rose family and the rose lineage of Mary Magdalene.
Just 2 orange juice into there and spit it out of you.
He for some reason intentionally decided to leave the dog out. But wait, where is the dog? We know this is a ceremony, and it's a marriage. Someone is pregnant. We see the Annunciation symbolism. So hold up, why is this dog there and why is he not in the mirror? Dog in the mirror is God.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too. Aren't you forgetting the ruby slippers? The slippers? Yes. The ruby slippers. What have you done with them? Give them back to me or I'll... It's too late. There they are, and there they'll stay. Give me back my slippers. I'm the only one that knows how to use them. They're no use to you. Give them back to me. Give them back. Keep tight inside of them. Their magic must be very powerful, or she wouldn't want them so badly.
Oranges 3, and there's a song that's talking about oranges that I posted about recently. The 3 Marys, then 4, then the 4 Marys. There's a Z on her dress, and the Z in the alchemical photo. Also, in the paintings, you can see the Z and an O, or at least a Z, and I always see the Z, and the O and the Z represents Az or Zo for Zozimas.
But there's one detail that ties it all together.
There's a Z. Which relates to Zosimus and also Zosimus and also Oz. Zosimus, it made me think of like Christmas. I need to look up the etymology of these words, the mas especially. Zosimus, Mos, Oz, Mos, Oz. Mary the alchemist, Mary the seeder, or reseeder of populations. Okay, so technically Mary is the seeder or reseeder of populations. I was given this message by my friend Kaylin a while back about how I was a seeder of populations. So that really stuck out to me.
They're from Hydra. I know they're from Hydra. And you are one of these ancient dragons that seeded life on Earth. So, like, we have snakes, right? We have snakes, we have lizards, we have eels. These dragons, or this dragon that you were connected to, I feel it was from so long ago, and it was one of the seeders of like reptile, snake, sea creature life on this planet. That's what I was getting when I was doing it. I was like, oh my god, she's from Hydra. This is an ancient goddamn dragon that was one of the seeders of genetic life forms that are now on Earth as snakes and eels. And so I was like, oh my god, I'm trembling in my boots. This woman is so old. Happy 7,000 million birthday. Like, you're old, man. But in a good way. In a good way. Obviously. But, so now that all being said, I'm gonna edit in both of these, the mermaid eel form that you had in a past life long ago, and a very long ago form of you as a sea dragon. And mind you, the sea dragon was actually blue that was coming through. Like, you shape-shifted into this form. I don't know if these are in the same lifetime, like this form and this form are together in the same lifetime. It felt kind of like that. But this sea dragon kind of goes way back. It's like a sea snake. So it goes way, way back to like ancient Hydra lifetimes. So you might find a little bit of everything going on with these. But yeah, the dragon was blue. But for some reason I was like, nah, it has to be pink and all these other colors. Like, I didn't want to, duplicate blue. So I was like, pink would really be the ringer here. But yeah, I'm gonna drop them in here. Okay, hopefully I just did that and it worked out perfectly, and you're like resonating to your core, hopefully.
Also, I was getting downloads about Dorothy, how she fell from a star. I'm getting that Tesla caught it. These were just downloads that came. She fell from a star. Tesla caught it. Dorothy, Mary Magdalene, Kansas. 9999 was seen on a license plate. Then it led me to the 99 red balloons. And I just saw yesterday a post from my friend Rashida talking about the 99 airstrikes from Russia. And you all know how I was getting Anastasia from Russia. So somehow it all connects. Parable of the Lost Lamb is also the 99 and 1 that has to do with Jesus, the story of the Parable of the Lost Lamb, except there's the 2, which is the 2 and 1 I wrote down, and the house fall. Kansas, she says, is the name of the star. So in Wizard of Oz, they say Kansas, she says, is the name of the star that Dorothy fell from. So yeah, definitely interesting. I want to look into this more. Then we were getting messages about homunculus. All creatures are possible. Mermaids are real because of this. And this is research that Mind Unveiled did. Before I show the clip of proof that mermaids exist, there is something I have to summarize really quick. Now, this is coming from Mind Unveiled's video about the homunculus. I highly recommend you watch the full video. It is 10 hours. It is 10 hours long, but I promise you, it is so in-depth and so informative and will make a lot of sense of a lot of things for you. So keep that in mind while watching this. The first part I'm going to show you kind of summarizes what the homunculus is. And remind you, I'm trying to summarize 10 hours of a video. So you'll definitely want to watch the full thing if you want to learn more. I highly recommend his work and this video. It will really bring to light a lot of things that you've probably been questioning for a long time. I know it brought a lot of awareness to my mind and it was amazing. So I'm going to show you this clip first. Basically, it will preface going into the mermaid thing. And so here, bear with me and definitely watch this.
But it's a part of a greater topic. Quote, the generation of all natural things is twofold, natural and without art, or artificial and visualized by the alchemist. End quote. Paracelsus tells us straight and simple. It's his first point really. Putrefaction is the key to the generation of all natural things. We'll discuss this more in detail later. But listen to this part carefully. I'm paraphrasing, but, quote, Book on Nature 1. It may be possible for humans to be born without natural fathers and mothers. That is to say, they can be born not from a woman's body in a natural way, as other humans are born, but through the art and expertise of an experienced spagyric alchemist. A human may thus grow and be born, as will be further explained. Quote, it is also possible in nature that humans can be born from animals, having their natural causes. However, it cannot happen without heresy, that is, when a human mixes with an animal, and the animal-like female takes in the sperm of a man with lust and desire in its womb and encloses it. In this case, the sperm must go through decay and through the constant warmth of the body. A human and not an animal will be born. For every time the sperm is sown, a fruit grows from it. If this did not happen, it would be against the philosophers and against the light of nature. For as the seed is, so a fruit grows from it. From onion seeds grow onions, not peas, not nuts, not lettuce. So from various grains, different plants grow. This is explaining to you what they were thinking, to not only create humans without natural fathers and mothers, but to be born without a mother entirely. Then he goes further to explain how you can even birth these humans out of animals. Okay, wait, what are we even talking about here? Quote, it is also possible, and not against nature, that a woman and a person can give birth to an animal, and it is not to be judged with a woman in this like with a man, that is, one should not regard her as transgressor, as if she acted against nature, but rather attribute such things to her imagination. For her imagination is often to blame for many things. For the imagination of a pregnant woman is so great that she can transform the seed and the fruit in her body in many ways, for her inner astral forces act so strongly and powerfully upon her fruit that they give an impression and influence. Therefore, the child stands in the mother's body in the creation, in the mother's hand, and will, like clay in the potter's hand, from oats to oats, from barley to barley, and the like with all other fruits, what has seeds and is sown. We will explain this more later, but he's essentially saying that women have the ability to be alchemists and shape their babies through the use of their imagination. But we must clarify that we're speaking of a different type or tier of imagination, as will be further explained. Okay, so now we're about to get to the full breakdown of this art of generation, and let's remember this typically does not get brought up when discussing homunculi, which leads many modern scholars to doubt the legitimacy of the claims. But if we're diving deep into how detailed and vast this science really was, they were playing around with the power to generate life artificially. But even more importantly, they could influence the outcome. Quote, 5. And as you know now, through putrefaction, many and various things are born and become alive. So now you should know that from many herbs, through putrefaction, very wondrous animals are born, as experienced people know. It is important to note that such animals which grow and are born from within decay all have some toxicity with them and are poisonous, some more powerful and stronger than others, and each is shaped and formed differently from the other. As you can see in snakes, vipers, toads, frogs, scorpions, basilisks, spiders, wild ants, various worms, caterpillars, moths, beetles, all of which grow and are born from within decay." End quote. Quote, "It is also no less true that many monsters are born among animals, and these are their offspring, which often happens that they give birth to an animal or another monster from human seed, according to the strong imagination of the mother on the child. They often grow from decay themselves and are brought about in a glass, as has been reported. The same often appears in many and wondrous shapes and forms, so terrifying to behold, as often with many heads, with many feet, with many tails, sometimes of many colors, sometimes worms with fish tails or wings, and other strange forms, the likes of which have never been seen before. Therefore, all these creatures are monsters that have no parents and are not born from other animals of their kind, but rather grow from other things and are brought forth and created through art, as you will see with the basilisk." End quote. Quote, "But it is not here to deal with these homunculi, since they can be generated naturally and artificially, as from the greater matter and the lesser matter, such as from man and from monkeys, from horses and from donkeys, and from many other animals." End quote. Let's remember that donkey for later. But there you go. In clear language, he's explaining what this is really about: generating any animal you please, hybrids, and creating humans or any type of life in a variety of different wombs. Again, Reddy did not debunk spontaneous generation or the artificial generation of the alchemist. Remember who we're reading from. This is from Paracelsus himself, one of the founders of the scientific method. There's no reason to believe that this information is false, or at least it would seem that the author and many of his followers believed it to be true. They could have been creating all types of different beings. Also, on the basilisk, it would seem that the alchemists during this time had a certain issue, which we'll go into detail on as we progress, but to take note, the basilisk is considered as the feminine evil twin, some kind of feminine evil that gets brought forth during the experiment, and this can manifest in different ways. The basilisk is a type of homunculus created by the alchemists as a result of the putrefaction of menstrual blood and thus female-derived. Some scholars argue that this was a form of early female medieval misogyny. There may be more to it than just that, as we're dealing with two different qualities of results. In De Natura Rerum, another reason why some scholars bring question to the author is because it shares many similarities with older Arabic texts, and in Paracelsus' other work, De Homunculi, he takes the approach to using a womb instead, as it seems the method of creating it in a bottle came with some problems that needed to be solved. Now before we leave De Natura Rerum, or The Nature of Things, I want to read the actual quote from the book of the experiment because I'm going to show you how you really don't get the full context. If you try reading the English one from the 17th century, it's still pretty difficult to read. You can understand the words, but it's more difficult to process what's actually being said. So this is a translation based on the German version and then checked with the English version. Quote, "Now the generation of the artificial man is also not to be forgotten in its own way. There's something to it, although such has been kept in great secrecy until now and has been completely hidden, and not without a small doubt and question in secret of the ancient philosophers whether it is also possible for nature and art that a human being can be born outside a woman's body and a natural mother." End quote. So wait, he's telling you straight up that this is the biggest secret and it's ancient in origin. Quote, "To this, I give the answer that is not contrary to the art of the spagyric and nature in its own way, but it's entirely possible. How such access and occurrence may be, its process is as follows. Namely, that the sperm of a man enclosed in a sealed cucurbit with the highest putrefaction in the belly of a horse is putrefied for 40 days, or as long as it takes to become alive and move and stir just like this. It becomes visible after some time. After such time, it will appear to be somewhat like human, yet transparent, without a body. When it is, then daily fed with the arcano, a whitish substance. Remember this whitish stuff for later. and nourished until 40 weeks have passed and kept in the constant warmth of a horse's belly. It will become a living human being, resembling another child born from a woman, but much smaller. We will call this a homunculus, and it should be raised like any other child with great care and attention until it reaches maturity. This is the greatest and highest secret that God has allowed mortal and sinful humans to know. It is a miracle and a great work of God, a mystery above all mysteries, and should remain a secret until the end of time when nothing will be hidden and everything will be revealed." End quote. Okay then, they were creating humans without a mother. It resembled any other child born from a woman. Okay, so it's not just a tiny human? And that they could raise these things, it seems. But let's remember what he said. This is the greatest and highest secret, the secret of generation and putrefaction. There is another component to this. As we said, there are multiple layers, and we will cover them all. But he does continue to say that these homunculus then go on to change to become magical beings of different kinds. The blur between the astral and physical have led many modern scholars to perceive this as mere fantasy, but there really is no reason to conclude that just yet. We must take into consideration that Paracelsus, being one of the founders of modern chemistry and one of the earliest to experiment with homunculus, was specifically being cryptic. That's important to note because it allows one for interpretation, but furthermore, it explains on why this is still a mystery. Because whoever was looking into this stuff at the time truly did not want this to be unveiled in detail to society. Their methods are never clear, but almost as a cryptic message to inform other brothers, and we are left with the remainders to piece together the puzzle. Well, it's clear that Paracelsus is bringing importance to the subject of generation and that there are two forms, natural and artificial. This would essentially mean that a homunculus is a science and art of artificial generation, guided and directed by an experienced alchemist, and the variety and forms therein are numerous and they can be combined with any animal. Now the deeper level is that he's actually discussing how to use natural chambers or wombs for the artificial creation of a homunculus. And he's saying, yeah, you can do this with a lot of different animals. This will be confirmed as we look through more sources. And we're not just talking about making more animals by artificial insemination. It's actually different and much more occult. They're talking about the creation of chimeras, like literally growing a human in different wombs from different animals. What kind of minds are we dealing with here? Because this doesn't make sense to be just some made-up fantasy. There are many details to this process. Don't believe it? Well, let's continue. So the main quote from Paracelsus on the homunculus is literally a recipe where he uses a horse as a surrogate mother of the homunculus, and the semen of a human male is left inside the womb of the animal to putrefy for 40 days. Then the homunculus is born. Paracelsus also makes reference to the phoenix as an alchemical symbol. Quote, Paracelsus, his way for the raising of a dead bird to life, and for the generating many serpents of one, both which are performed by putrefaction. A bird is restored to life thus, viz. Take a bird, put it alive into a gourd glass, and seal it hermetically, burn it to ashes in the 3rd degree of fire, then putrefy it in horse dung into a mucilaginous phlegm, and so by a continued digestion that phlegm must be brought into a further maturity, being taken out and put into an oval vessel of just a bigness to hold it, by an exact digestion, and will become a renewed bird, which, saith Paracelsus, is one of the greatest wonders in nature, and shows the great virtue of putrefaction. Cut a serpent into small pieces, which put into a gourd glass, which you must hermetically seal up, then putrefy them in horse dung, and the whole serpent will become living again in the glass, in the form either of worms or spawn of fishes. Now if these worms be in fitting manner, brought out of the putrefaction and nourished, many hundred serpents will be bred out of one serpent, or of every. Fermentation happens by constant exposure of moisture to heat, which leads the moisture itself to be transformed into a state between water and oil. This is how a truffle coagulates into a soft, solid mass. Then, a second fermentation is required to initiate growth. the Arabic sources go into more detail on the power of the moon. The prominent astrologer 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿 al-Baqi notes the moisture and fermentation, tafin, are both lunar effects. This influential 10th century coterie of anonymous philosophers known as Ikhwan al-Safa, the Brethren of Purity, explain in their al-Risala al-Jami'al, the comprehensive epistle, that the motion of the moon generates truffles and also some animals, like birds, silkworms, and bees, adding that most of them are created in 14 days and emerge after nursing in 21 days, for this is the period of the moon coursing from day of incubation until exiting from the sun. Basically what they're saying is that this is literally a natural process. Not just that, yes, sexual intercourse happens naturally, but they're describing phenomena in which animals are being generated due to astrological influences alone. During certain conditions and/or time periods, this could spawn a variety of different animals. According to these ancient sages, it has to do with these energies being the crucial component to artificially generating life, and that it actually occurs in nature without human intervention. Okay, so there's actually another section of Nabatean agriculture where 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿 discusses the bee ritual, but he mentions something else this time. Now this is insane. 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿 discusses spontaneous generation of fauna and the generation of bees from bulls. This time, we also learn about regions where humans and animals exist only through spontaneous generation. For example, he relates that in the Indian Sea, during springtime, sometimes a hand emerged which people reported and contemplated. Every year, this hand had a different color, proving that the sightings related to many individuals, not just one. In the same sea, mermaids and mermen were reported to have been caught in fishermen's nets. They were alive, sentient, and mobile. The adult mermen had beards and were called the doctors of the sea, tabib al-bal, while those without beards had tiny teeth like those of boys. Weird that he mentions that because there's barely any historic images of this 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿 ritual, the bee from the cow ritual, and the one image that there is of it literally shows mermaids, so not sure what to make of that other than they're telling you what this actually was. 𝐕𝐢𝐿 continues and says, humans, or human-like creatures, can be artificially generated too. We're told about this magus, 𝐏𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿, who described in his book on the subject how he generated a creature which was like a human but lacked speech or understanding. 𝐏𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 received this information from a certain book on the mysteries of the sun by Asclepius, messenger of the sun, Rasul al-Shams, who related how he created the cosmic man, al-Insan al-Kani. 𝐏𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 asserts that the artificial generation of humans in the microcosm is a sublunary reproduction of divine creation. 𝐕𝐢𝐿 admits that for his own part, he failed to achieve an operation like this, whereas 𝐏𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 did not fail due to the virtue of his knowledge in talismanic and magical works, because in practice, the method of generation is the same method of making talismans and magic. Whoever is able to make talismans, all the works of creation and generation are easy to him. So look at this. These ancient alchemists, who supposedly are the first sources, all write about earlier sources as if they did not compare to the original masters. Supposedly, the author failed in creating humans with intelligence, but the author of the book that he got his knowledge from was a master with even more wisdom, which proves that they had the art of creating humans mastered before the source. Therefore, in 𝐕𝐢𝐿's works in both Kitab al-Sumam and his Nabatean agriculture makes it clear that the understanding of fermentation, spontaneous generation, astrological influences, and occult properties is essential in performing artificial generation, or in other words, the creation of a homunculus. In these works, we actually also find a theory and operation which fit into the alchemical and magical tradition that includes the Picatrix, Liber Vaccae, and the works of Paracelsus. Understanding this proves that the Book of the Cow, or Liber Vaccae, and the Arabic works connected to the Picatrix are a part of the same tradition. There was an ancient Greek reference that we left out at the beginning because it's quite strange However, we now have arrived at one of the earliest accounts of the homunculus, Zosimos of Panopolis, a Greco-Egyptian alchemist and Gnostic mystic who lived during the transition between the 3rd and 4th centuries. Zosimos is credited with authoring the oldest known alchemical literature, the 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿, a Greek term meaning things made by hand. He is one of about 40 authors represented in a compendium of alchemical writings that was probably put together in Constantinople in the 7th or 8th century, copies of which exist in manuscripts in Venice and Paris. In 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐻 𝐾𝐲 al-Farist, 4 books by Zosimos are mentioned, although attributed to Thosimos, Dosimos, and Remos due to transliteration inconsistencies. Fuat Zeskin, a historian, located Zosimos manuscripts in 6 libraries worldwide. Zosimos' works significantly influenced the Arabic alchemical tradition, as it is referenced in several works. While Zosimos' conception of the homunculus differs from the traditional alchemical version, renowned psychologist Carl Jung identified it as the first instance of the homunculus idea in alchemical literature. In his work on virtue, Zosimos recounts a series of dreams that demand symbolic interpretation, providing an intriguing glimpse into the early development of the homunculus concept and its relationship to alchemy and mysticism. Quote, "I fell asleep and I saw a sacrificer before me on the altar in the form of a flask. The altar where the priest was had 15 steps. I heard his voice coming from above say, 'I have undergone the action that consists in descending the 15 steps, radiating darkness, and in ascending the steps sending forth light. The sacrificer himself is remaking me by rejecting the thickness of my body and consecrated out of necessity. I am perfected as 𝐏𝐢𝐝𝐻.' Having heard the voice of him who was in the flask, I asked him to tell me who he was. 'I am Aeon, the priest of inaccessible places, for someone has come at the break of dawn, running, and he has made himself my master, cutting me apart with a knife, tearing me asunder according to the constitution of harmony, and skinning my entire head with the sword that he clasped. He intertwined the bones with the flesh and burned me up with a scorching fire from his hand until I had learned to become 𝐏𝐢𝐝 by metamorphosing my body. Behold the intolerable violence that is my lot.' And as he was saying these things, I was pressing him to talk. His eyes became like blood, and he vomited forth his flesh. And I saw him change into a mutilated homunculus, Anthroparion, biting himself and wounding himself with his own teeth. Seized with fear, I thought, is it not thus that the composition of the waters is produced? And I was convinced that I had understood well." End quote. That seems way more than just a dream. And where did they get the imagination for this type of stuff? Zosimos provided one of the first definitions of alchemy as a study of the composition of waters, movement, growth, embodying and disembodying, drawing the spirits from bodies and bonding the spirits within bodies. End quote. Why is the eye such a prominent symbol in occult secret societies? Let us explore further, as the symbol should be quite clear to see now. Let's dive down the rabbit hole with an alchemical text and let's just break it down. The work Kabbalah by Spiegel der Kunst und Natur in Alchemia, 1615, which translates to Kabbalah, mirror or art, and nature in alchemy. And in this fascinating alchemical text, authored by Stefan Michelsbacher, a German alchemist, it features 4 captivating engravings by artist Raphael Custos. These are very unveiling because the idea behind these works is that it would merge Hermetic symbolism, single point perspective, and the concept of mirrors, or a double self, to guide the reader through an alchemical journey of understanding. They literally put the meanings into these images to be decoded. It's obvious once you see it. The book attempts to use the concept of mirrors to understand the self, the mysteries of alchemy and divinity. The emphasis on mirrors is also connected to a trend during the 16th and 17th centuries, where several publications used terms such as the speculum or Spiegel. What's interesting is that this single point perspective was literally a device in which they would communicate this secret meaning. Think about it. Perspective was just being developed during this time, so images with this technique, which revolutionized art and visual representation, were believed to have a deeper, mystical significance during this time. It brings you into the image, you go into another world, you go through the mirror. And they understood this type of symbolism extensively.
It's you. I was afraid you would drown. Help me step through the glass, Dorothy. What's your name? Ozma.
But the stranger part of all this is their connection to royals and, well, human farming. People began to think that images drawn using the single point perspective system could create magical mirrors capable of revealing hidden knowledge and truths. They literally believed this to be a portal for demons and higher metaphysical beings, including John Dee, who was known to use magic mirrors, but also believed the single point perspective system could be a magic mirror on its own. This idea was rooted in the belief that such images could serve as a bridge between the material world and the spiritual realm, providing glimpses into the mysteries of the universe and the divine. We must consider that from this point on in our journey, we must look at this information from a more occult or esoteric point of view. The knowledge of the alchemist is secretly encoded within these images.
And I'll be making a more thorough video on this. It proves what I've been saying is true. And that was like the key thing of the code that I was trying to crack, about how they're actually real. And I'll be making a more thorough video on this. Okay, so the reason why the root chakra is because if you watch Mind Unveiled's video about the homunculus, you'll know why, but I had channeled a long time ago something about rose tinctures, which could have to do with red mercury or it could have to do with the homunculus. If you don't know what this is, please research it for yourself, but basically there's like a theory about us being birthed in a vial from blood, and the mixing of something else like can make humans, basically. And also, stay with me now. There is a correlation between Dorothy's red shoes, the root chakra being red, and mermaids. So if you think about the people being changed DNA-wise into having feet, that would, and cutting them off from their past as being fish would be like cutting the sole of the foot, or cutting the foot, which would therefore mean red shoes, okay? Because that symbolizes the cutoff from our ancestry being either snake or stay with me now, or mermaid or fish-like, okay? So keep this in mind, because they were also able to make hybrid animal and humans from the homunculus. Okay, and there's proof of it in ancient paintings and writings. So keep this in mind. That's why the root, and also in the video with Alice and the root chakra, and the keyhole, and also Dorothy's red shoes, there's symbology there and a connectivity to this, okay? So keep that in mind.
If we look at the entire scene, we can see that there are mermaids, strange knighted hybrid fish-like beings that have red fruits and black fruits. We see an Astarte-like Phoenician mermaid, and the main centerpiece is this phallic alchemical flask in the center of the garden. This is a massive generation factory. We also see that the beings that are flying have cherries, so they contain the knowledge of flight. You know, all this information brings to question hybrid creatures from myth, or even the demons depicted on the Last Judgment. If it's true, that the ancients thoroughly explored how to create artificial beings and the spontaneous generation of animals, who's to say that these experiments didn't go further, and that some of these creatures were actually created by the alchemist? There's a strange set of engravings in a book called the Cabinets of Curiosities, Wondertorneo der Nature by Levinus Vincent. They say he was just a collector of small animals and seashells, but also artificialia, which resemble the homunculus of the alchemists. There are also occult symbols in this book, such as hybrid creatures, and a man holding a hive pointing to the shells next to him filled with various jars.
So this is definitely the key that I was looking for when it comes to hybridization and how these mythological creatures that they say don't exist actually did. And the reason they say they didn't exist is because they don't want you to know about the artificial insemination that they used to do back in the day, where they would literally create all kinds of human formations, animal formations, mixes of all different kinds of animals and humans. And I mean, that just goes to show that humans and fish were merged as mer creatures. I have proof right here that they were in accordance to ancient alchemical texts. So it just goes to show that that is truth and that is real. And so this is the code that I've been trying to crack right here, and it's all in this Mind Unveiled video. So also, if this is like the main secret, it's like, what do we actually know about creation at all? You know, and it also goes to show that how, like in the 3D tangible, how they always want to recreate something that is godlike, that is of source creator, and they want to make it tangible so they can see it with their own two eyes. Somewhat like how, for example, how timelines exist on this material and etheric realm, and how they want to make them just like how they are, but just solely in the tangible, and try to replicate that in the etheric, such as with like the Hadron Collider in CERN, to create these like ripples or portals or dimensions or timelines, but they're all artificial because they're created artificially. So I believe that there is a God creator that created us. I believe that there is artificial intelligence that wants to artificially recreate that so they can feel godlike. And it kind of goes back to, if you think about it, like ancient Atlantis and how they destroyed Atlantis because they were messing with human DNA and animals and creatures, just like they're talking about in this video. So yeah, it's quite curious, I think. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I feel like intuitively we do know about creation and organic creation. I feel like the inorganics are trying very hard to replicate and therefore reverse the natural order of things. And I mean, if you just look around today, you can see that very vividly. It goes beyond knowledge and acquiring knowledge. It's like literally they want to be like God. Like they want to be godlike, power hungry, control the narrative of all things. And you just simply can't do that. You can try, but you're not going to get very close. And the reason you're not going to get close is because all that was created came from organics. So inorganics can only get so far with that. So it just goes to show that if anyone's worried about AI takeover, that we've already been ahead of the game, just in accordance to how things are naturally. Oh, kitty. So it just goes to show that. I think I just saw my Cheshire cat. And I'm taking a walk into Wonderland as Alice down the rabbit hole. Here we go. it also goes to show like anything that needs to be kept secret or be hidden has a very nefarious agenda behind it. So anytime you hear like secret or hidden, it's because of the agenda that's behind it. Because honest, truthful people don't feel the need to hide anything. They share it. They wear, you know, their heart on their sleeve. They're not afraid. They're authentic. They're not afraid of being who they are. They're not afraid of speaking their truth or their mind. So it just goes to show all of that. And just because God allowed you to recreate something that he could naturally do doesn't mean that like he's okay with it. It doesn't mean that he couldn't take that away from you in 2 seconds. So it's not something that goes unpunishable by any means. If you look at all the resets that have happened, I mean, that should be verifiable proof enough of that, that God has the final say and the only say. So just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should, and that goes with anything in life. So yeah, talking about kind of like morality, really. So we have 33, 33, 6 and 6 is 6, upside down is 99, 66 upside down is 99. M is also the fountain, and this is shown in certain fountains, 444 just now on my clock, confirming that. And Jesus says, drink my blood and live forever. Could this be representing like the knowledge of where we actually derive and come from? And if it is mermaids, and it is like this essence of immortality as a representation of that, you know, because it's in all the movies, even Pirates of the Caribbean, The King's Daughter.
I think I saw it! No other nets!
I think she's a mermaid.
You cannot kill the mermaid.
You don't have to agree. You have to obey.
For all France.
The creature must be sacrificed to transfer its eternal life.
The mermaid must escape the king.
Please help me.
Stop him!
The King's Daughter, rated PG.
Mercury, the Mercure, the mermaid cure, which is immortality, which is what they're searching for. The fountain of youth, the M. The myrrh, the magic, you know, it's very interesting. And if you flip that M from the fountain, you get the 2 tails of the mermaid. And you get also the double-headed eagle from the Roman Empire. M is shown coming out of the fountain. M is the fountain of everlasting life, okay? Alice goes through the gate to see it. Michael on TikTok made a video about this that I had posted about as well, but I might post things as I go and insert them as I go so they make more sense. was getting messages about Ellis Island. Ellis sounds like Alice Island. I had Mama, which is Mary Magi. Mama, Mary Magi. Mary the Magi. And then these came through, you know, like the day after I was talking about how you can do all these things. You can raise the dead. Okay, you can raise the dead. All these things. Bilocation, dream walking. I'm definitely a dream walker. And then like AI picked up on this, and AI posted a video to my feed about a video coming up talking about dream walking, which is really weird.
Why does the zebra look the way it does?
So embarrassing.
Hey, focus.
Is this how it went?
No, it's different now. Oh, you've been on my mind recently.
Yeah?
Because you keep popping up in my dreams. You don't do anything, you're just there.
So, this specific person, the remarkable nobody, I've also had that experience. Do you have a picture?
Have you been dreaming about me?
Have I been dreaming about you?
Yeah. There's like 100 messages. Somebody wants to interview me.
This is strange. Maybe you should take a minute and think before you do anything drastic.
Why me? I don't know. I'm special, I guess.
How does it feel to go viral?
Who's actually had a dream about me?
You're scaring me, Paul. I'm going to have nightmares.
I wish I was the one people were dreaming about.
Me too.
Yeah. No, it's something.
How's he dealing with all this?
We're not even the type of people that like attention, you know?
Do you think other people are seeing you naked?
Maybe thousands.
I hope I'm behaving in your dreams.
Oh, no, you're not.
So I'm finally cool, huh?
I didn't say that.
You hear that, Janet? She's saying I'm a cool dad.
I really feel like you're playing with fire here.
Dad, please help me!
I'm not actually doing anything to them.
You know, fame can come with some less desirable side effects. You should be prepared for that.
Maybe we should cool this thing off.
What? What do you mean?
It's embarrassing.
Which part?
Guess I'll see you in my dreams.
Yeah. Of course not.
Lots of weird dreams for me too recently. I might talk about them, I'm not sure. Yeah. Raising the dead. And here we got Ellis Island. L is 11 from Stranger Things. L is Ellis, Alice. 11 is, L is, 11 is, because they call 11 L in Stranger Things as a nickname. And I posted a video about astronomy where he's explaining what L is in relations to the astrological chart.
Things down. So when you look at L is essentially Saturn. L is the 12th letter. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm bringing syncretism. I'm showing how everything is kind of interrelated, and you can do it through letters and numbers, just by taking words like cabal or cable and just breaking it down a little bit. So now we see L. L is essentially dealing with Saturn. L is also the 12th letter in English, right? So now let's switch it. Now let's switch. What's L in Hebrew? Anybody know? Looks like that. Anyone know what the letter L? How do you say it, or how you spell it essentially? Why do they call her L in Stranger Things if she's 11? L, just curious. Got you. Because she's... L is dealing with the mind, more or less. So Saturn is dealing with the mind. L gets in her own way. L has to do with Saturn. And essentially it's the 11, 12, 13. And the reason I'm saying this is because the L, or the 11 is representing the K. The K is representing the dualistic nature, like Joaquin and Boaz, or masculine and feminine. And then 11 is essentially the mind, and she's representing the masculine and the feminine aspect of the mind. It's a beautiful question, though. But that's something that I would definitely want to get into. Actually, start dissecting the names of Stranger Things. I dissect names of movies and people in movies all the time. So thank you for that, because that gave me an idea now. So that's gonna spark my interest. I thought about it before about why her name is 11, and I know it had to do with Saturn, but I never really dug really deep into it. So the letter L in Hebrew is called Lamed. Lamed. So now we see in English, the letter L is the 12th letter, and in Hebrew, it's the 30th. The number is 30.
The Latin alphabet we use comes from the Greek, which comes from the Phoenician, and if you wrap it around a circle, turn each letter 90 degrees, and combine them into two-letter pairs, you see that our alphabet comes from the stars. Note, however, that these three signs are reversed. These are individually mirrored. Cancer has a basket on its head, and Aquarius is missing. The letter reversals are due to the sun's analemma still present in the alphabet, and that's the figure 8 pattern that the sun draws on the sky each year, and the direction the sun is moving through each sign causes the letter reversals. Untie the alphabet on the 7th of 22 letters. The basket on Cancer's head marks the summer solstice. Aquarius is silent because the early peoples believed his waters to be the underlying fabric upon which all the other signs lived and moved and had their being. And we can answer more questions if we look into the pictographic meanings of each letter, or if we stack the alphabet on a 7-layer cake. But for now, I've answered the question.
Christians can't bear any of this stuff. They can't hear any of this stuff. They can't hear about the astrological, astrology. They get freaked out. Oh, don't talk to me about that. And yet, in Genesis 1, the very first page, it says, God says, let the stars be for signs. Well, if the stars are for signs, shouldn't you figure out what they mean? Psalm 147 says God named all the stars. Why did he call them Sagittarius and Aquarius and Aquila and 𝐏𝐤𝐿? Why did he call them those things? Nobody knows. Do you know the whole Bible was written in the stars before it was ever put on paper? And you can read the Bible by looking at the stars? No, you say, well, that's ridiculous. No, it's not. It's true. I say, well, I don't believe, that the stars influence people. Then why does it say in Job 38:32, can you bind the sweet influence of the Pleiades? Can you loose the bands of Orion? They're stars. And it says in the Bible, it says they influence people. I'm telling you, it's a shame that we have been made afraid of nature and the cosmos by this religion that goes no further than a book.
Which I'll insert here if I can remember. We have Ellis Island, and I saw this building in a lucid dream. Here's another dream thing. I saw the building of Ellis Island. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because it looked just like it in my dream. And it has to do with 12 million immigrants coming over for the American dream. Think about it. You're coming over for the American dream. You're coming over to fall asleep. They did name changes there. I wrote Noah resets because they did the name changes. The gates, I got the word Stark County. Gates, garden, and the gate. They had me doodle this bottle. And I smelled grape while I was doing it. I think it has to do with wine. Could have to do with something else, though. I'm not really sure. They had me doodle this, which looks like the infinity symbol, but also a snake, and then yin and yang, like that part. And Libra medicine. And they had me doodling a bunch of stuff. David, the word David, yeah.
Could there be descendants of Jesus Christ walking around today? So let's talk about Christ's living lineage. So Yeshua, or Jesus, of the Essenes, he had at least one wife during his lifetime. Most speculate it was Miriam Magdalene, and that he fathered a daughter and 2 sons through that union. So this would be the house of David, descendants of Abraham. It's kind of what was popularized with the Da Vinci Code. The idea that there is some hidden race of Christ-like beings walking around. It gets interesting. So in 2016, take a look at this. It's a press release from the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, that the divine bloodline, the remaining descendants of Jesus, Yeshua, have been under attack from the Vatican for centuries. In fact, they claim that they've killed more than 4,000 descendants of Christ in the past 10 years. And they say there are 891 living in the United States as of 2016. Let's look into it and try to vet it. I happened to come across this CIA document. It was written in 1995. It is a synopsis of the bloodlines of the Illuminati. Now, one of these 12 bloodlines is responsible for Druidism, another for the Canaanites, one from the tribe of Dan. These are your DuPonts, your Astors, your Rockefellers and Rothschilds, right? Apparently, there is a 13th bloodline, a chimera, if you will, a genetic modification of the line of Jesus, the line of the house of David, instilled with the seed of his brother, Lucifer. Now that just sounds like some honky-tonk wish-wash magic nonsense, right? Let's keep looking. This is really interesting because this process, almost exactly what's described in Aleister Crowley's book, Moonchild. So this says that the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, that lineage record is actually verified by ancient indigenous Native American records. The existence of a Native American text verifying the lineage of Christ is incredibly interesting. According to this, Christ, Jesus, and Mary had a daughter and 2 sons, and the daughter is very key. This is why. So, X mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, is only passed through female relatives, right? It's carried on the X chromosome. And it's incredible at tracing direct line maternal ancestry. It can go as far back as 52 generations. Whereas, had Christ only had a son, we would only be able to detect autosomal DNA, which disappears after 5 to 6 generations. Now, all of these records show that Mary was a part of the Monrovians, living in a part of southern France. This is also, interestingly enough, the origin of the Rosicrucians, the Huguenots, the Jesuits. Let's talk again about the X chromosome, right? So, according to some researchers, it also carries your soul's memory. And if Christ was the proclaimed Immaculate Conception, presumably, there would be no Y chromosome. Or could his conception simply be an explanation for fertilization outside of the womb? Why would they do that? What could be the motive? Well, they might be able to create a powerhouse of Kundalini energy and someone with access to all of their third eye abilities, telepathy, manipulating the elements, remote viewing, energy healing. Obviously, there's lots more digging to do here, so check back for more videos or links to any of the research that I cited today. You can visit the link in my bio, which has a source links document and a list of all of the sources that I've used from the beginning of my TikTok. It's a lot of interesting stuff, and I encourage you to check it out and support me for all that effort.
And then the void. There's still a lot going on in the void. In a phase of shock or excitement of light beings, like some sort of new discovery, yet it goes beyond time, the self-discovery process, and not to be solely accredited just to them, for they are very humble. How we are in the advancement process where their consciousness and codes are now more fully encapsulated with ours, or on the same, or one and the same. Encapsulated with ours or one and the same, they said. Okay, wow. So light beings stuff. Then I got look into red mercury, a key component in making the philosopher's stone. I was researching it, I got lithium-6, which is the color red for communism in Russia, people were saying. No tangible results on this. Are some alchemical components just a symbolism for something else? That was a thought of mine. Symbolic representation. The etymology of myrrh, which I'm still looking into. Emerald is actually, thanks to forest theory, M, so it would just be merled. And so emerald is just merled. So I need to look into that. Mermaid, Mercury.
Give these straight to your parents when you get home. Do not open them yourselves. Albert Einstein Coal. Nikola Tesla Hertz. Marie Curie Fortune.
Thank you.
Mercure. Energy of the mermaids is the cure. They say they are the cure for eternal immortal life, which is the fountain of youth again. And then that came up yesterday in a Pirates of the Caribbean trailer where they were talking about going on the search for the fountain of youth.
As you may well know, there are times, almost constantly in fact, where I prefer to look at the world through the bottom of a glass.
And then I thought I'd try to get to the top of that hill. When you say hill, I could show you hills in comparison with which you'd call that a valley.
Rum. Something like this. Whisperings and rumors that Jack Sparrow be recruiting a crew to undertake a voyage to the Fountain of Youth. Not true. Of course not. But even if it weren't not true, you wouldn't be interested in joining me, would you? Eh? Death lies before us as we sail to the Fountain of Youth.
There a rumor. Jack Sparrow's in London, hell-bent to find the Fountain of Youth.
Gentlemen,
the fountain is the prize.
Mermaid waters, that could be our path.
And I'll insert the name of it here because I can't remember what it is. In Arab news outlets, and Zaki Saad Ali, an Egyptian archaeologist in the 1940s, discovered a strange red liquid hidden beneath a sarcophagus of one of its mummies, mummified pharaohs. And so it was like this strange red liquid below one of its mummified pharaohs. We got Mary M. and her alabaster jar, which held some sort of oil, I believe, that could raise the dead, or it's a symbolic reference of that, I believe, because in Chronicles of Narnia, Mary goes around with her little vial and she turns all the stone people into being alive again, ones that had been hurt by the White Queen. She brings them back to life with that vial and she heals them as well.
Merry Christmas, sir.
It certainly is, Lucy, since you have arrived.
Look,
I've put up with a lot since I got here. But this...
We thought you were the witch.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, but in my defense, I have been driving one of these longer than the witch.
I thought there was no Christmas in Narnia.
No, not for a long time. But the hope that you have brought, your majesties, is finally starting to weaken the witch's power. Still, I dare say you could do with these.
Presents!
The juice of the fireflower. One drop will cure any injury. And though I hope you never have to use it.
Thank you, sir. But I think I could be brave enough.
I'm sure you could. Battles are ugly affairs.
When are you going to learn to do as you're told?
Just like she did with Jesus, I believe. They grew us like trees. I got a download saying that. And why the feet? To symbolize the fins, the red root, where life stemmed from. Stemmed? Trees. Joshua's tree. Joshua's treaty came through today. That Jesus's name was actually Joshua, and they go hand in hand. Joshua of Nevi, according to my friend Righteous Decoy. And I got a message and a download like a week ago about how thanks to the Mind Unveiled video about the homunculus, but then it showed like Jesus as a tree and his arms extended out would be the Joshua's tree. Joshua's treaty also. Very interesting stuff like the tree of life. You know, there's something here, you guys, and it's like we're all a part of it. Then there was something on my feed having to do with like faces coming from the tree. where you had to find the faces of the tree. There's something in alchemical texts about plants and making hybrids and things. Like, it's really crazy, but
Secret of existence and the power of women have been suppressed by the church. I'm going to reveal what they don't want you to know. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene is a Gnostic gospel. She is the most prominent disciple and a teacher of divine wisdom. She explains that all of humanity is divine and that we can rise above the illusion of the material world by overcoming ignorance. The church considered these beliefs heretical, and they spent decades systematically abusing the Gnostics until they were forced into silence. But the Gnostics never really went away, and they still exist today in anyone who has any interest in spirituality, philosophy, or mystical teachings. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene is an important text to a group of Christians called Gnostics. The word Gnostic is derived from the Greek word for knowledge, and the Gnostic Christians claim to know hidden knowledge and the real teachings of Jesus Christ. So who was Mary Magdalene, and what was the secret of reality that Jesus told her? And why did the church consider this knowledge to be evil? Mary Magdalene was described as an intimate companion of Jesus Christ. She was the only disciple who was able to reach enlightenment through her interpretation of Jesus' teachings. In an additional banned gospel, the Gospel of Philip, she is described as Christ's closest companion, whom he loved the most, and the one who he kissed on the mouth. And what Jesus revealed to Mary is shocking. It reveals that reality is not at all what it seems, and that the universe itself can be conquered. More on that later. Mary tried to tell the other disciples the secret that Christ had revealed to her, but the disciples Peter and his brother Andrew demeaned her for being a woman and the preferred apostle of Jesus Christ. History suggests that the church wanted to play down the role that women have in spirituality to create a patriarchal religion. This can be seen in the Bible, where it says that women are not allowed to teach, that they must remain quiet, that they are lesser than men, and that they must submit to their husbands in marriage. They are held responsible for committing the first sin and eating from the tree of knowledge, and it states that they can save themselves through childbirth. But the Gnostics had different ideas. They wanted to draw attention to the critical importance of women. They are given godlike status and shown great honor and respect. In fact, Jesus is often depicted as the manifestation of the female deity Sophia, which translates into divine wisdom. There are many more examples in Gnosticism, like Barbelo, who is the supreme feminine principle of existence, Eve, who brought the power of intuition and higher consciousness to humanity, and Eve's forgotten daughter, Nerea, who defeated 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿. Mary Magdalene is no exception. She is the most important of all the apostles, and Jesus loved her deeply and revealed the secrets of existence to her. In early Christianity, there was a struggle between those who wanted to focus on men and those who wanted a balance of male and female representation in the Bible. This conflict came to a climax in 325 CE at the Council of Nicaea, where a group of bishops decided how Christianity should be taught to the masses, and it decided that Christianity would be firmly patriarchal. The church then had all other perspectives that conflicted with theirs destroyed. Not only did the destruction of these texts prevent the teaching of feminine Gnosticism, but it also destroyed their secret teachings on the nature of reality, including the teachings Jesus told to Mary Magdalene. But luckily, we know parts of what Jesus revealed to Mary, since the remains of many Gnostic texts were found in 1945 hidden in the tombs of Egypt. So what exactly does the Gospel of Mary Magdalene say, and what did Jesus tell her? The Gospel of Mary begins with the disciples asking Jesus if the material world will be destroyed. Cryptically, Jesus replies that all matter, all nature, and all creatures are connected as one, and all things will be returned to where they originated. Jesus then leaves, departing secret of existence and the power of women considered a heresy. Why? Because they don't know how to continue without him. But Mary stands alive, hidden in the tombs of Egypt. So what exactly does the Gospel of Mary Magdalene say, and what did Jesus tell her? The Gospel of Mary begins with the disciples asking Jesus if the material world will be destroyed. Cryptically, Jesus replies that all matter, all nature, and all creatures are connected as one, and all things will be returned to where they originated. Jesus then leaves, departing the disciples for good, and the disciples start weeping because they don't know how to continue without him. But Mary stands up and comforts them, taking a leadership position, and tells them not to weep. Here she is beginning to take the place of Jesus in his absence. This is important and we'll come back to it in a minute. One of the disciples, Peter, asked Mary to tell them the secret knowledge that Jesus revealed to her, and she starts teaching them about the nature of reality. Mary tells them mind, not matter, is the true nature of reality, and that mind is the key to existence. Mary begins to describe the hidden levels of reality that exist beyond the material world. She discusses the journey that the soul must take to transcend, and explains that this must be done by defeating ignorance. The soul is even called the slayer of matter and conqueror of space. Because we have other Gnostic Gospels, we know that they believe that all of us are divine. They believe that the material world was an illusion and a prison for the soul that must be transcended, and that ignorance keeps us from recognizing our own divine nature. This was one of the Gnostics' great secrets that the church considered a heresy. Why? Because when you're trying to control a population, the last thing you want them to believe is that they are all-knowing and all-powerful. The Gnostics did not rely on blind faith, but prioritized knowledge and what they called epinoia, which means critical thinking or intuition. They believed that this was crucial for realizing who we truly are. The church teaches that you are flawed and sinful and that you need saving. The Gnostics believed that you can be your own savior by realizing your own divinity through the power of your own mind. And not only does the Gospel of Mary Magdalene reveal the secret of existence, but the Gospel itself is a code. Let me explain. Orthodoxy hadn't been established yet, and early Christianity was divided about what Christianity actually was. The Gnostics liked writing in code and metaphors. I believe that the disciples represent what would ultimately become the different denominations of Christianity, with each male disciple representing a traditional patriarchal form of Christianity, and Mary Magdalene representing the feminine Gnostic version of Christianity. The Gospel says, "Peter, you have always been hot-tempered. Now I see you contending against women like the advisories. But if the Saviour made her worthy, who are you indeed to reject her? Surely the Saviour knows her very well. This is why he loved her more than us." The disciple that condemns Mary, Peter, represents what would ultimately become the modern church. Remember that the Gospel of Mary Magdalene begins with Jesus teaching the disciples, but when Jesus leaves, they don't know what to do. What does Mary do? She steps up as a leader, comforts them, and takes up the role of new teacher who reveals secrets of the universe. In other words, she's the successor of Jesus. Mary is presented as the only one who truly understood his teachings. What this story is trying to convey is that Gnosticism should be the true version of Christianity. We see this when Peter defies Mary, calling her a liar, which matches up with the church's fear and hatred of the feminine. We see this struggle played out in the world today. A lot of problems are caused by the suppression of the feminine. We need to remember that the feminine perspective is powerful and important, and it needs to be integrated into our collective consciousness.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for rambling, but if any of this sparks a download, like either before, during, or later on, let me know what you receive in the comments. I would love to hear. A lot of symbolism here, but I'll be doing more research soon and a further in-depth video. I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. You're entered automatically then in a chance to win a free reading with me if you just subscribe and leave a comment below. Also, share this video out if you think any of your friends would benefit from the messages. Share the video out. You could do so by hitting the share button below, copying the link, and texting, DMing, or emailing to a friend or family member. Also, if you're interested in a personal reading with me, all my timeless readings and personal readings and meditations and song albums and everything, drawings, sketches, channel drawings, messages, courses, they can all be found below in the description box under my Etsy shop link, which is Kimberkiss Readings, all one word, also pinned in the comments. I love you all, and until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
The idea of the chair is in the ether, and the chair is right in front of you, so I don't see any contradiction there. Thank you.
Okay. The invisible things are understood